Normandy, 1944. Private Tom Bouchard wiped the mud off his face and stared at the tank in front of him. It barely looked like a proper Sherman tank anymore. Metal plates, scraps, jagged chunks of steel bolted wherever they would fit. Spare track links hung across the front like some kind of iron necklace. "Captain's gonna lose his mind," muttered Corporal Evans beside him. Tom shrugged. Captain's not the one driving into that village. The first time their squadron rolled through a French town, a German anti-tank gun had opened up from a hidden position. One shell, one flash. One Sherman turned into a burning furnace in seconds. After that, the crews stopped trusting factory armor, the idea that wasn't authorized. It started with one tank crew. They had spare track links. Heavy steel pieces meant to replace broken tracks. Someone joked they were thicker than parts of the tank's own armor. Next morning, those track links were bolted to the front of the hull. Ugly, crooked, improvised. But when a shell hit that tank days later, the track links shattered, and the main armor underneath held. The crew lived. Word spread faster than any official order. Within weeks, Canadian tank units all over the front were copying the trick. Welding, bolting, hanging spare steel anywhere a German shell might hit first. Officers noticed immediately. "You're overloading the suspension. This is not regulation. Remove that junk." Crews nodded. "Yes, sir," then waited until nightfall and put it back on. Why they risked getting in trouble. Inside a Sherman, when a round penetrated, it didn't just punch a hole. It turned the inside into a storm of red-hot metal fragments. Fuel lines ruptured. Ammunition cooked off. Escape sometimes wasn't possible. Every extra inch of steel, even unofficial steel, felt like a second chance. Tom ran his hand over the rough track links welded to the turret. "Looks like scrap," Evans said. Tom gave a thin smile. Scrap stops shells. When their troop rolled out at dawn, the tanks clanked louder, heavier than before, but the crews felt something they hadn't felt in weeks. Not safety, just better odds. And in Normandy, that was enough. Autumn, 1944, somewhere beyond the shattered hedgerows of France. Private Lewis Carter hadn't seen the sniper. Nobody ever did. All they heard was the crack. Sharp, flat, final. The man walking 3 steps ahead of him just dropped. No shout, no warning. The lieutenant whispered, "Sniper, hedge line, don't move." The problem was, every hedgerow looked the same, and every time a rifle barrel poked through leaves, it became a perfect aiming point for a German marksman waiting for exactly that shape. Straight line, dark circle, metal glint. A rifle silhouette could get you killed faster than a shout. That night, Lewis watched Corporal McKinnon do something strange with his Lee Enfield No. 4. McKinnon tore strips from an old sandbag, wrapped them around the wooden stock, then around the barrel, not too close to the muzzle. He tucked bits of burlap under the sling and rubbed the whole thing in mud. Lewis frowned. "Won't that jam it?" McKinnon shrugged. "Maybe, but a jam you can fix. A sniper round you can't." The birth of the bush gun. Within days, half the platoon had rifles that didn't look like rifles anymore. They looked like pieces of the hedgerow. Fabric broke up the straight lines. Mud dulled the shine. Bits of vegetation made the weapon blend into walls, rubble, and foliage. When a man aimed from cover now, the first thing a sniper saw wasn't a barrel. It was just mess. Texture. Nothing clear to shoot at. And that split second of hesitation was sometimes enough. Officers hated it. During inspection, a captain grabbed one of the wrapped rifles. "What is this? You're trapping moisture against the metal. This is how weapons fail." No one argued. They unwrapped them, laid the rifles out clean. The moment the officers left, the wrapping went back on. Because Lewis noticed something in the weeks that followed. The men with clean, bare rifles were the ones snipers seemed to find first. The ones with filthy, wrapped bush guns? They lasted longer. No report ever officially praised the trick. No manual ever mentioned it. But across Canadian units in Normandy and the Scheldt, rifles quietly stopped looking like rifles. They started looking like part of the ground, and in sniper country, being invisible was better than being perfect. Winter, 1944. The Scheldt Estuary. Rain mixed with sleet. Trenches half filled with water. The sky never quiet. Gunner Bill Fraser had stopped flinching at distant artillery. The problem wasn't the shells you heard coming, it was the fragments you never saw. A shell exploded somewhere behind their line. Not a direct hit, not even close. Still, something smacked the side of the trench wall like a hammer. Dirt sprayed. A man screamed. Not from a bullet. From a piece of metal no bigger than a coin. Shrapnel didn't care how brave you were. It came down from above, sideways, at angles you never expected. And the standard steel helmet? It helped, but not always enough. The sandbag trick. One night, Bill saw a sergeant doing something odd with his helmet. He took a small square of sandbag material, folded it, and stuffed it inside the top of the helmet liner, right above where the skull would be. Another man cut a piece of cardboard from a ration box and slid it between the liner and the steel shell. Someone else added a thin layer of cloth padding from an old blanket. Improvised shock absorbers. Unauthorized. Absolutely. Regulations said nothing was to interfere with the helmet fit. Officers warned extra material could reduce protection or affect how the helmet sat on the head. But the men weren't trying to stop a direct hit. They were trying to survive falling fragments, the tiny, deadly pieces that rained down after every artillery burst. When shrapnel struck a helmet, the steel could still dent inward violently. That sudden force could cause concussions or skull fractures even if the metal didn't fully penetrate. A bit of padding inside? It sometimes made the difference between a cracked skull and a headache that faded by morning. Quiet evidence. After a bombardment, Bill helped a friend who'd taken a fragment to the helmet. The steel was dented deep. Without the padding inside, the impact might have been fatal. Instead, the man was dizzy, bleeding from a small cut, alive. Nobody filed a report saying cardboard saved this soldier. But word spread trench to trench. Soon, helmets felt tighter, heavier. Some officers made men remove the padding during inspection. Most soldiers put it back the moment they returned to the line, because artillery was constant, and anything that turned death into survival, even slightly, was worth bending the rules. Bill adjusted his helmet before stand-to at dawn. "Regulations," he muttered, "don't fall from the sky." The next barrage started before breakfast.